B-boy. From the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East coast to the west, B-boys worldwide. We supposed to be blessed, still a B-boy.
B-boys and B-girls. I just wanted to quick do little dedication. A few days ago, Chino XL passed away, and for over 20 years, I've worked with him. I knew him personally. We've done multiple songs with him, and this one hit hard. I was just talking to him 2 weeks ago about a song we are going to do together, and earlier this year, he came to Wisconsin. I was at the show and kicked it with him after, and man, he was just so alive. And this one took me off guard, so little dedication. Usually I have the artists we're doing's albums in the background. Today I got it all Chino stuff. So rest in peace, Chino XL. Arguably one of the best lyricists to do it. If not number one, he's in the top 5 when it comes to lyricism. But let's do what we're here for. This week, we are heading to Chicago to talk about a rapper who embodies the phrase real MC. From his more boom bap roots in the 90s to a sound that kept evolving, this MC did whatever made the most sense to him. This week, top 10 common songs. Joining me, as always, Raven Hunter is in the house. Diz Mega is back. And the first time on the round table, we got Slang, founding member of Rearranged. Let's talk about some common sense. And I will begin at number 10. I'll start it off number 10. The year is 2008, the album Universal Mind Control. I'm going with the title track, Universal Mind Control. When we started this, I never thought this would make my list or even be close, but it kept catching my ear over and over. And it's produced by the Neptunes, which don't make me think Common. And it doesn't sound like your normal Common song. It almost reminded me of like a mid-'80s West Coast electric music, like Ice-T's Reckless, almost that kind of vibe. But I just kept coming back to it. So I had to be real with myself. I had to make the list. I slid it at 10. Common rides the beat perfectly. I guess it was just a guilty pleasure song for me. So Universal Mind Control was my number 10. Slang, what's your number 10?
I had to take it all the way back to the beginning. 1992 was an interesting year. The LA riots and Rodney King verdict. Here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, there was the Jeffrey Dahmer incident where he was finally arrested. The summer was hot as hell here in Milwaukee. I don't know if anybody from Milwaukee remember that, but just a very interesting time in the history of humankind. And it was a lot of stuff going on. I saw a lot of like local rappers, for instance, Teju used Kamanzi from the Kali tribe. And he was one of the premier artists I had ever seen come out of Milwaukee that was a lyrical MC. Speech from Arrested Development is from Milwaukee. They came out in, I think, 91, 92. So Soul by the Pound, the Thump mix, for me, I think that was the first time I saw Common, heard him, and I was just like, this dude has so much flavor, and I love the beat, and the samples were on point. It just, to me, stood out as something I was like, this is a lyrical dude. I said, I really appreciate what he's doing for the culture, and like just to come out the Midwest. That was one of the first MCs I had seen come out the Midwest with a lyrical style, and for me, that one put him on the map. When I say it put him on the radar. Not quite on the map yet, but I'm gonna get to that one. But Soul by the Pound Thump remix, that was number 10 for me.
That was an honorable mention. I just have the regular version, but I had Soul by the Pound on my honorable mentions. So,
and by the way, that was the non-album version. That's the one that they did for the video. It's got a totally different beat.
Right. All right, number 10, Raven. What's your number 10?
I believe the song is called Testify. It has Kanye West in it.
Yes.
I can't read my writing on this one, but I'm pretty sure it was Testify. I love Kanye. It's a really dope beat made by Kanye. And Common sounds awesome. Like, Common was on a bunch of Ye beats, and I like his production. I like the way Common's voice melds with Kanye's production.
Diz, what was number 10 on your Common list?
All right. So for me, I better just tell you where I sit first when it comes to Common. I haven't been too heavy into Common, but there was a couple songs on my playlist, specifically one on a record from The Game called Jesus Piece, where Common has a verse on there, and it totally sparked my curiosity on the guy. And, randomly I would just pop in some Common to check it out, but you kind of forced my hand on this. And I thought, you know what, this is a good opportunity to dive into some Common. I'm gonna come in this one like I've done a little bit in the past and just say, hey, you know what, I'm new to this, but I've scoured the library, tried to absorb as much as I could, and these are the top 10 tracks that I found, in my opinion. I guess recently, Common just came out with the record with Pete Rock called
Yes.
the
Hmm.
Auditorium Volume One.
Yes.
I gotta say, man, I was really impressed right off the bat. This is like my earliest taste of Common, just being like a couple weeks ago when this came out, and I was like, this is fucking dope. Lonesome is my number 10. It's off that record. It's a nice jazzy almost type of beat. It's really smooth, and it's not exactly what I heard from Common do in the past with like Kanye West tracks or the Game album, Jesus Peace. So getting a taste of this, I kind of knew what I was in for. I had an idea, because like gangster rap, that's my main genre, man. That's where I really have most of my shit. Seeing Common being sold like at Starbucks or whatever, I was like, I kind of wrote him off. Like, I don't know, man. This guy must be super smart. I don't know, too thought provoking for me or something. But I knew that he had talent and skill, and I was pretty curious about tapping into that shit. And listening to this record first, I guess this is his latest. Like I said, man, pretty impressed. Very almost jazzy, smooth, and I gotta say, man, it's a different flavor, and I liked it. So I gotta put that one at number 10, Lonesome. I'm not really sure who's doing the production on this track. I don't know. Does Pete Rock do production?
He
I'm
does the
dumb.
whole album.
Yeah, he does the whole album. He does the whole album. Yeah. All right, number 9, and I'm going to the year 2000. The album is Like Water for Chocolate, and I'm going with the song "Doing It." This is probably my favorite album by Common. I played the hell out of this when it came out in 2000. He got a beat by Jay Dilla, rest in peace, one of the best to ever do it on the production side. Common brings you that MC just vibe that, kind of reminded me of the Resurrection type era Common. Yeah, man, RIP to Dilla. I can't say enough good things about him and his production. And this is like the third track on the album, and this was the one that always really got me into the album. Although I liked the one before it, this is when I was like, all right, this album's really taking off. So Doing It, that's my number 9. Slang, what's yours?
I gotta add to that. I want to put that as an honorable mention. I can't believe I almost forgot about that song. I was bumping that song as well. So I take it to 2016 for my number 9. It's an album I actually slept on. It's called Black America Again. The name of the song is Little Chicago Boy. And in this song, he details his father, who had passed away from cancer, I guess, recently around that time. His father's life. His father was affectionately known on a lot of the interludes on his early albums as Pops, and he did like the closing. And it was a really heartfelt. The production, by the way, was done by somebody in Jay Dilla's circle, a guy named Kareem Riggins. So the production on this album, and I can't believe I slept on it, but the production on this album is stellar. Beyond that, he details his father's life and how he affected him, how he influenced him. By the way, his father actually made pro basketball. He was a member of the Denver, I forget whatever ABA affiliation Denver had, but he was a pro basketball player, 6'9", believe it or not. And so it was really heartfelt for somebody. You just talked about Chino XL passing, Chris. I didn't know. I didn't even know he passed. This is my first time hearing that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I didn't know. Condolences and
Yeah,
to
Sunday.
the
Yeah.
to the oh wow, to the nation, people who follow Chino XL, excellent lyricist. I'm sure even a greater man. But back to Common. To go through something like that, as we and I experienced, you and I experienced with losing Ted Jew. You lose somebody that close to you personally. When you try to formulate the words and then go into the studio and to record that, that's not easy to do. But he does it with such grace and such purpose on this song that I think is worth a listen. That's my number 9. That was 2016 off the album Black America Again, Little Chicago Boy.
That was another honorable mention. That was my only honorable mention off that record. And kind of
Yeah.
like you, there was a handful of records in a row, including that one, that I kind of slept on. I saw them and
Yeah.
maybe just Listen, yeah, for whatever reason, they never stuck, or I didn't really check them out. But no, I'm glad that one got brought up because it's great storytelling. We are on 9. Raven, what made your list?
I went to 2008 Universal Mind Control for the song Universal Mind Control, produced by the Neptunes, Pharrell on the hook. It's such a different sound for Common, and I really liked it. The song Universal Mind Control.
Right.
It's such a different sound for Common, and I like that the beat, and I think it sounds dope on it.
So it wasn't only me whose ear it struck. I was like, there's no one gonna have this song on my list. But as always, we always
I
seem to
thought this
have
shit was
one
pretty
that's like,
dope.
yeah, it just wouldn't get out of my ear. It's like, damn. Diz, what is your number 9?
Number 9, there's a track called "Get 'Em High" off College Dropout. I know this is a Kanye song, but I took note of the lyrics for sure. Anyways, Kanye and Talib are you could say they're hilarious on this track. They're back and forth, the way that Talib kind of dips in from like a phone call conversation. But Common does his thing on the last verse, and he doesn't fail to impress, of course. Yeah, I love the lyrics that he has here. I mean, the beat is killer dope, man. I'm just like learning. Wow, Common and Kanye fucking phenomenal together. But what Common raps here about hip hop is dead, but he's here and he's resurrected. Kind of saying he is hip hop, and other lyrics like he's bolder than Denver, and I was like, oh okay, I'm Colorado.
Yeah, that
It
was dope.
hits.
Yeah, it's
That
your
was dope.
Yeah.
hometown.
So I was like, you know what? I like this. I like this track. It's gonna make my 9, even though it's a Kanye album. Common kind of steals the show here. So get him high, number 9.
Don't feel bad about cheating. People do it every episode, but that is
I
a dope
know.
song. When we did Kanye, I believe that was on my list. All right, we are to 8, and I'm going to the year 1997, and the album is One Day It'll All Make Sense. And I'm going with the song Hungry. This will be a common theme, but just some pure B-boy MC type ish again. You got No Idea on the beat. Chicago legend when it comes to production. And there's no hook or anything, right? It's just one long verse of just straight bare bones lyrical hip hop. It's like you're listening to him in a cipher, in an alley somewhere. I really think with this album, you could see the evolution of the Can I Borrow a Dollar slash Resurrection Common and into what would come after this, because it's kind of a mix of the old Common and what would become with like Water for Chocolate a few years later. Hungry. I just it got my MC bones. So that was my number 8. Slang, what is yours?
Number 8, I took it to 2014. There was an album called Nobody's Smiling. This one actually was kind of left field for Common because it was really, got your guys talking about gangster rap. Like, this was probably Common's most gangster album, if you will. It was really gritty. He talked about a lot of Chicago issues that were going on at the time. A lot of the issues at the time in America were after 2012, when Trayvon Martin was murdered by George Zimmerman, string of police shootings on unarmed young black men, to be honest with you, and it happened for years. This song kind of details some of the issues with that, and the song is called Kingdom. By the way, if I didn't mention it, the song called Kingdom off of that album. Just a powerful track that is produced by No ID. It has like I think the hook is a choir church. It's got a feeling to me that really it encompassed the time, because it was a very crucial time. We were leading up to the 2016 election, and you saw what happened there. And like I said, at the time, it just, for me, living in Milwaukee, there was a young man by the name of Dontrell Hamilton that was murdered in Red Arrow Park by the same type of issue and everything. He was shot 11 times because he was trying to sleep in the park, and the cop woke him, and he just told the cop to fuck off, and the cop started shooting. So it was personal because, like I said, a lot of stuff in Milwaukee at the time was just a reflection, a mirror of the country. And when I heard this song, it was so timely, and it really reminded me that Common is one of those artists that he always seems to capture the time in a moment. Like this new album, I unfortunately did not include it because I wanted to give it time. I wanted to give it at least maybe 2 years for it to mature. It's very dope, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to give it time to mature and not be unfair as to include it with these songs that have stood the test of time and had time to like settle in and see where it sits and hits on a historical perspective. But that's my take on it, man. It was a crucial time in America, a lot of stuff going on, and he and Vince Staples really nailed it with the three verses. Common does the first two, and he kind of details third person, like just these stories about these young men that were kind of like this, the song on Rearranged Volume 1 that you did called Think I'm Dead, Know I'm Dead.
Yeah.
He detailed the first person story of somebody dying. It was kind of like that, and he was talking about his life in the past and what he could have done to try to do better, and then would he make it to heaven? Kingdom is referencing the kingdom of heaven. Can I get the keys to the kingdom? That's part of the chorus. So it really encompassed a lot of different themes at that time I thought were crucial, but not to keep going on, but that's my number 8, Kingdom, off of the Nobody Smiling album. That was 2014.
And it's the story as old as the country. I mean, we're still dealing with those same issues in Milwaukee. I mean, there's literally just happened. It was security guards, but
At the convention.
at the convention center, right by Pfizer Forum. So it's
I was going to add to that with even that this happened at the convention. And not to defend the police or be on anybody's side, but what happened to tasers?
right.
Do they still have tasers, or are they just I don't know. I'm going to stay out of that. I just
Yeah.
It is what it is, But yeah, so
Yeah, it's over my head to solve it, but it seems like should be a better way, no doubt about it. All right, number 8, Raven. What you got?
Number 8, I went to 2000s like Water for Chocolate, Cold Blooded, produced by the Roots. It's got Rizal, Black Thought, and Roy Hargrove in it. And the only note I put was just a great fucking beat. I love that beat, and I love the way they flowed to that shit.
That reminds me, I want to bring up something. Rizal from the Roots, a name that doesn't get mentioned enough. When it comes to beatboxing, I mean, he's up
Yeah,
in the
the
top
best.
tiers. Yeah, my heart wants to say Dougie Fresh and Biz Markie, but Rozelle is just bananas. The sounds he makes is crazy. And I don't think enough people really know his name. And I don't think we ever talk about him on the show. So just want to give him some love. Number 8, Diz.
All right, there's a track called Faithful off of the B album. I thought it was a really dope beat, man. The lyrics are interesting. It's about a woman, I believe. What really caught my attention? It's just a nice, clean track. And a lot of Common's music, his library seems to be pretty clean, like safe. Meaning, like, I just had like a birthday party, I don't know, a week ago, and I played Common, and I didn't have to like fast forward anything because nothing was too, whatever.
Shocking.
And it was chill. It was cool. This song right here is just kind of like reminds me of Common, or what I'm getting out of Common in general. Anyways, Faithful, the whole album is pretty good, and I was studying it like on the wiki, and I was like, oh my god, this is like album of the year. How many publications? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So definitely an album that I wrongly have dismissed, obviously, never listening to it. So yeah, but this track from that record caught my attention, so made it number 8 for me, Faithful.
Well, that B record is really good. I mean, it still holds up, all these years later. Which brings us to number 7. And this is the first Common song I ever remember hearing. The year was 1992. He was still Common Sense. The album, Can I Borrow $1? The song, Take It Easy. I believe this was the debut single off his debut album. I remember hearing it, be like, oh, I like this, And once I figured out he was from Chicago, kind of like you said, Slang, it's like, especially in the early 90s yet, people weren't really talking about the Midwest, even though Chicago's the 3rd largest city in the nation, but it was East Coast, West Coast, and even South was making noise. If you came from the Midwest, that gave you extra love. I probably gave you more love and more chances than I would maybe from another coast, just because I felt a kinship to you that we're in the same area, and no one ever talks about us. But yeah, Take It Easy. It's just some MC stuff. Again, another no ID beat. I just had to rep something from this album. It's my only one off this record, but yeah, Take It Easy. Can I Borrow $1? That was my number 7. Slang, what's yours?
My number 7, I'm gonna take it to One Day It'll All Make Sense. I believe that was 97, right? Yeah.
Yes.
One of my favorite albums of Common, I believe his third official release, the song Stolen Moments Part 1. And Common is one of the best storytellers that we have in this culture. And this song right here, when I first heard it, I'm listening to it like, did this shit really happen to him? Somebody breaks into his house. This is around the time Common was really just starting to budgeting, I want to say burgeoning superstardom, but at the point where everybody really was at the point where they're like, this dude is an incredible MC, incredible storyteller. But now it really kind of started to propel him to like, you're starting to look at like Slick Rick and how he used to define a image in your head. And I remember the first time hearing this song, I was in school down in Kentucky, and I'm like, I'm just listening to it, and I'm envisioning him walking into this apartment where he said the hole was drilled in his door, and how pissed he got when he saw that there was a blunt roach in an ashtray that somebody just cleaned out the last day, as he mentioned. And he said, whoever came in on me is out. So at the end of the song, you're like, he's going into part 2, which leads into the next part with Black Thought, which is, it's just a dope series. It's 3 parts, but the first part to me set it off on that album, because he was just really he was detailing like to the very minute detail of how he as I approached my hilt, paranoid on my bones had built by a lock on the door, the hole was drilled. When I opened it, you know, it was just incredible imagery. One of the things that always inspired me was a storyteller. I have to admit, as an artist, I've been heavily influenced by Common and his storytelling. And when I heard this, it just propelled me to go and write stuff that, you know, like I had experienced, even if it was just the most, you know, whatever I was experiencing at the time. So number 7 for me, Stolen Moments Part 1 off of the 97 classic, One Day It'll All Make Sense.
And not only are you right that he's a great storyteller, maybe a little underrated. You know, when people talk storytelling MCs, you don't usually hear Common a lot, but he's got almost on all of his records really detailed stories like that.
Yep.
And that's not an easy art to have as a, you know, a writer. We are on 7, Raven. Which
Yeah, I went to a 92's Can I Borrow a Dollar for Take It Easy, just because that's the big single that kind of really helped put Chicago on the map at the time for rap. Like Chris was saying, just yeah, it was a great fucking beat. No ID. Common definitely does his best work with No ID, and yeah, Take It Easy. Just it's always been a standout track.
And again, I said it before, No ID. I mean, all the songs he's had his hand in, so many dope songs. And I think outside of hardcore hip hop heads, a lot of people don't know that name. Maybe they heard Kanye talk about him in a song or something, but they don't really know the work he's done. And you're right. I mean, especially the first half of his career was heavy No ID production. And again, like every list, we have one that's exactly the same on the same number. Diz, what is your number 7?
Number 7, I went back to the auditorium actually, double dipping there. There's a track called Dreamin'. You know, as you know, the jazz, the horns, the vocals, it's one of the nicest tracks I think I've ever heard. But the lyrics, like you guys are just talking about his storytelling abilities, and like he's just talking about this dream that he has here. You know, Pac and Biggie told him to grab the mic, and he's just describing it, and the whole thing is like a dream. And like if you like his story writing abilities, I think Dreamin' might be one of those tracks that that you'll like. I did. So that's number 7 for me, Dreamin' off the auditorium.
Yeah, that is a really good record. And kind of like you, Slang, I've only listened to it once or twice, so I kind of felt like I didn't pick anything off of it, like I needed it to marinate a little bit. But it's Pete Rock. It'd be hard not to like it for me.
Yeah.
But anyways, number 6, I'm going back to the 97's One Day It All Makes Sense. And I'm going with Getting Down at the Amphitheater featuring De La Soul, who I'm a sucker for. I love De La Soul. They're able to be so unique, not only in the beginning of what they were rapping about, but even their delivery and voice. There really wasn't anyone else like that. So I've always been a big De La fan. And this beat is a little unique. Another one by No ID, but it just always sucks me in. And it's just some b-boy music, and that's probably why it sucks me in. So it had to make my list. Getting Down at the Amphitheater. One Day It All Makes Sense. Number 6. What about you, Slang?
Dope song. I agree with that on that album. Number 6, I'm gonna take it to 2007's "Find It Forever," song called the title track, or so-called title track. I believe it's the last song on there, called "Forever Begins." I believe that was produced by Kanye, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look at the credits again, but I think, just due to listening to it, I've listened to it quite a few times over the past couple weeks preparing for this, but it's kind of got that feel of Kanye's album in '07 was with Graduation. And he started to
Was that
use a lot
07?
more, yeah,
Right.
instrumentation and the horns and the string music. I believe Kanye produced it, but in that song he's detailing a topic that we all, we're talking about, people passing and death and stuff like that. But he details his relationship with Jay Dilla, and y'all might know or might not know, but Jay Dilla was like, I'm a big Jay Dilla fan, one of his biggest supporters, and I always listen to his new stuff when he came out. I still listen to it to this day, daily, and all that stuff. But it's a very personal track that he put together in tribute to Dilla, and just talking about how his relationship was with him in his last few days, and dealing with the topic of passing on. And Bilal is one of the singers on the chorus. It's very just stirring as to how he brings it all together, and it's just a really very well done track. It's aesthetically and very musically very in sync with what you would expect from Common, but it kind of takes it that level further, because at the time, like I said, Jay Dilla had just passed a year prior, so it was still very fresh. But number 6 for me, Forever Begins, from the '07 Find It Forever.
Yeah, that era, like Finding Forever and B, I think that was mostly Kanye production, like over half of
Hmm.
each of those handful of albums. So
Right.
so that does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we can't say enough good things about Jay Dilla. Number 6, Raven.
Number 6, I went to 94's Resurrection, which, in my opinion, I think is his best album. It's not my personal favorite, but I think just track for track, Resurrection is my favorite album from him, or in my opinion, his best album. But I went to the song Resurrection, produced by No ID. It just, that track like perfectly kicks off that new era of Common, like kind of away from the common sense thing. And the beat is just a banger, and that track just really, it sets the tone for that album perfectly.
Right from the beginning, scratch at the beginning of that song,
Mm.
it hooks you. Such a great song. And back in the day, I've talked about this on the show. I had all these VHS tapes that I taped the OMTV Raps, and I know that was on one of my VHS tapes because I remember watching that video over and over. So it made that playlist. But yes, a song that might be brought up again later. We'll just have to wait and see. Number 6, Diz.
Number 6, I went outside of his catalog again, and there's a Jay Dilla record called E equals MC squared.
Whew.
Um,
Mhm.
there's a yeah, that track right there.
Yeah.
This is off The Shining. I thought that I thought it would be rare for Common to take a back seat to the beat, but this beat is awesome, man. I was like, I'm not like too heavy into Jay Dilla either, so this was a great like intro. He just doesn't land in a lot of the circles of the rappers that are in my constant rotation. This one though blew my mind. I was like, holy crap, man! Beat is dope. You know what? Common actually raps phenomenal on here. I can't take anything away from him on here. He does awesome on here. But the Jay Dilla beat is just so killer, man. It's just such a cool track. I had to put it on my Common best playlist, number 6, man.
We are halfway through. We are to number 5. And for the first time, I'm going to 2002's Electric Circus.
Yeah.
And I'm going with the song New Wave. This song was a standout in '02 when I first bought this record. And it still is my favorite off this record. And to be honest, I remember being really excited for this album to drop. The Water for Chocolate was the album before this. I was all excited. And then I heard it and I was a little disappointed. I think at the time I couldn't appreciate all the experimentations, right? I wanted boom bap, lyrical comment. I was like, what the hell is he doing? He's what the fuck? Right. But this was one of the few that stood out to me even then. And listening to it, 22 years later, it's aged with time, or I'm just looking at it different. I can appreciate a little bit more. Another Jay Dilla beat, and it's a mix of pure hip hop on the verses and then kind of a trippy hook. But new wave, I like that one from the beginning. I was very lukewarm on the record. a little bit warmer today. But that was my number 5, Slang. You're up.
Number 5, I went outside of the album genre, and a single he dropped, interestingly enough, around the time when Pac and Big were at the end of their beef, September 1996, September 10th to be specific, a song called The Bitch in You, Pete Rock produced, beef track between between Common, his response to actually Ice Cube dissing him on West Side Connection Slaughterhouse song. Common comes back and just smacks the shit out of Ice Cube. No disrespect, they're good friends now, but at the time, looking at it historically, lyrically, Common did not back down. At the time, people were kind of starting to pin him as that conscious rapper, maybe soft. I don't really think people really thought that, but some people might have. But on this one, you saw Chicago, and if anybody knows anybody from Chicago, like ain't nobody no punk, you know. And it's to the point where he even says it in the song. It's like you know, I'm not gonna repeat the words and whatnot, but it's just it surprised me when I heard it at the time. Like I said, the timeliness of it was released on September 10th, 96. That's 3 days after Pac was shot, 3 days before he passed from his injuries. So the timing of it to be released was even more ballsy. I think he said it in an interview. He didn't really know what was going to happen at the time when he released it, but he said, I had to let them know. You know, I'm like, this is Chicago. Like, we're not playing that. So, and I think even more than that, not even to get into the beef thing, but the fact that now they've survived that, because so many rappers did not survive not only that era, but there's been so many examples of rappers dying from words. The fact that both of them survived and could tell their stories is what, for me, that kind of propelled that to number 5 for me. But yes, The Bitch in You, single from 1996, Pete Rock produced it. I don't believe it was a part of any like mega single or anything. Chris, you could probably verify that. It might have been like a B-side or something like that, but I remember the single when it dropped, and it was crazy to me.
At the time, it was on Relativity, and it was on a
Oh, right.
compilation they put out.
Oh,
Urban
okay.
Assault is where it was first released.
Right.
But actually, the first that was an honorable mention. He had one of the best, out of all the people Ice Cube beefed with. I really like the Cypress Hill one, but he really had so many great lines, so many references, and he brought up Mac 10 and Dub C. It was in a certain Mad and a certain, he brought all these cool elements. It's a really great diss song. But there's this DJ out of Chicago. His name was DJ Flipside, and Slang, you'll remember the Scratch Pad in Milwaukee. It was a record store, and you could get all the latest mixtapes there. So I always bought this guy out of Chicago, DJ Flipside, and that's when I first heard that "Bitchin' You" song. I didn't think he was soft, but I was surprised. Like, Cube just said, 2 lines, bombing on common sense. Chicago is mine, and like Common just comes and destroys him. And to pick a fight with Ice Cube, No Vaseline,
Ballsy.
maybe one of the best diss tracks ever. He definitely showed he was no punk at all.
Right.
Yeah, dope diss song. All right, we are on 5, Raven.
5. So I went to 1999, a Raucous Records compilation that came out called Sound Bombing 2. It's a song called 1999 with the .x, and Talib Kweli got a little intro in there. High Tech made the beat, and it's fucking hard. I always loved Raucous' sound anyway. High Tech, I think, is another great fucking producer people don't really talk a whole lot about. And I love Sadat X. Like, Wild Cowboys and shit used to be my fucking shit. I always just love Sadat's voice and flow. But yeah, that's a killer track. Had to make my list.
Yeah, I think there was at least 3 sound bombing compilations. At least 3. I don't remember if there was a 4th, but they were all great. And you're right, that Raucous record sound of the mid to late 90s into the early 2000s. Damn,
it was grimy. I just love that shit.
It was so street, but still, I don't know what it was, and you're right, High Tech does not get brought up a lot. Most people just really remember him being with Talib. They did that group album and did a lot of work together, but yeah, he should be mentioned more too. I think he's out of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
High Tech, right?
Yeah.
All right, number 5. Diz, what do you got?
I got Black Magic off Nobody's Smiling. I love that beat. It has this repeated just black magic shit going on. The backward vocals of the female in there. I think her name is Janie Aiko or something like that. Awesome track though. I went through the album that one, at least Nobody's Smiling, and picked that one as like probably my favorite track on there. I thought it was really unique too. Not a lot of other the common tracks that I heard remind me of this one. It just kind of stuck out to me, and I was like, this track is so fucking dope, man. I love the beat. Common has real flow here, of course, as usual. He's even a little bit gangsta on here, and I love it. So Black Magic, that's mine.
Yeah, and that was one of those albums I was talking about that it kind of slipped past me at the time. It was like, even looking back now, like he had a lot of releases the last 10 years that I kind of just forgot about. A lot of records that just didn't enter my mind. All right, we are to number 4. And for the first time, I'm going to the year 2007, Finding Forever. And I'm going with the song The Game. Now that we're getting to the best of the best tracks, this is a great example of what I love about Common. Just 100% boom bap, MC, b-boy, hip hop music. And Kanye West is on this beat, which sounds nothing like a Kanye West song. It sounds like it would be Premier or maybe Pete Rock or Large Professor. It sounds nothing like Kanye, but it's so dope. And Common kills it. There's great samples in the hook with scratching, which always gets me. I'm a sucker for that. And Finding Forever aged really well. This still sounds really good, top to bottom, just solid. It's hard for albums to age well, even if you love them, right? A lot of them still sound like they're from different eras. Finding Forever, it just almost felt timeless to me. So The Game, that was my number 4. Slang, what's yours?
For sure, and I'm gonna follow on that with the b-boy straight up hip hop. My top 4 except for one, the song "Hungry" from One Day It All Makes Sense in '97. To me, that's my personal favorite of Commons. It might be up there as my all-time favorite because it's no verse. It's just straight up. He just dismantles the microphone, disrespects it over this no ID beat that's just a piano chop and a little bit of a horn and these hard drums. I'm a sucker for that. That's just straight up hip hop to me, and that's my number 4. I can't say much else except the lyrics. Don't need, what did he say? Don't need to rob banks with Dyke Boss to set it. I levitate to the occasion. Lounge like a lyricist. Rhyme wise, you a rest haven. You sat by the door, spooked like I was Wes Craven. You need to do more deleting and less saving. Praise of hell, raise of heaven as a bill on my page 11, but you should have known from day 1. You went on day 7. Just little gems in there too, but it's just stupid. Just like, that's probably my all-time favorite song. But number 4 right now on that list for me, Hungry.
Oh yeah, it was like you're in a cipher with him almost.
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
I love that vibe. We're on 4, Raven.
4. I went to 97's One Day It'll All Make Sense for Retrospect for Life with Miss Lauryn Hill. Love the beat. Another No ID beat. It's Lauryn Hill's awesome in that track, and just it's a good story. I remember, I'm pretty sure it had a video to it too. It's about that moral dilemma of bringing a life into the world, or abortion, or what to do there. I always love that song.
We are on 4. Diz, what'd you find?
4, Lovin' I Lost off of The Dreamer, The Believer. I think this is a 2011 record. A really interesting album. A little abstract, I kind of thought, but this song really stuck out to me. It has a lot of it's got some singing in there. You can call it, I wouldn't call it R&B, but I don't know if it's soul or something. The combination of it all just turned out to be one of my favorite tracks by Common. And then of course him rapping over it and doing what he does. I like this song. The record itself is pretty good, but I don't think I've listened to the whole thing enough to really let it all sink in. But this song I pulled out of there and thought I like this one as in my top 5 Commons. At least this is number 4 for me. So gotta go with Lovin' I Lost.
Yeah, and I'm glad that record got love because it didn't make my list, but there were some, like you just showed, some gems on that one. So talking about gems, we are to the top 3 Common songs, and I'm gonna take you to 1994's Resurrection for the first time. And I'm going with the title track, Resurrection. Like I said, that first record scratch just hooks you. And I really thought when we started this would be my number one. I've always said that this is my favorite Common song, and it slid to three, but not for any bad reasons. It's so damn lyrical. I mean, even though I've heard this 1,000 times, if you really listen to the rhymes, I mean, it's almost next level. It's really complicated rhyme scheme and just so lyrical. And Broken Record, another dope beat by No ID. And like I said before, this was on my UMTV, one of my VHS tapes. It's just hip hop at its finest. All the reasons I fell in love with the art form and the culture as a child can be summed up with Resurrection. Damn that beat and scratching. But it slid to three. Slang, what's your number three?
And number three, I had to take it to 2000s. Like Water for Chocolate, the song "The Light." Probably not like I said, I out of my top four, one of them I figured, this to me at the time in 2000 I heard it all over the radio, everywhere I went. To me, it wasn't like a great lyrical song, but in terms of like its impact, the fact that you had a rapper like Common who came from where he came from was now hitting the radio pretty hard. That meant a lot to me in that era of, the Jay-Z's and the Diddy's and all the, the overdone production and stuff. This was a Jay Dilla beat. It was just an awesome song in the way that the subject matter he talks about love and somebody he cared about. A very popish crossover type song, if you will. But Jay Dilla still finds a way to make it still funky hip hop. So definitely my number three. Just a quick tidbit too, like the newer generation of fans that may only recognize like people like Common and Queen Latifah, LL, Ice-T as only actors.
Right.
They're probably gonna know a song like this because it was, if they're doing some research and they're like, oh, hip hop songs from the, with this generation or era or whatever, that probably is going to be one that's going to pop up on a popular list, if you will, or a top Billboard's maybe 200 songs of that year or something. Because to me, I remember everywhere I went, I traveled a lot. I was working for American Family at the time and did a lot of traveling across the country. It seemed like every radio market I hit, they were playing that song pretty heavy. So my number three, The Light, off of 2000's Like Water for Chocolate.
Yeah, that was a honorable mention. And you're right. That's probably his first big. It was. He never had
Like
a hit
radio
that big.
hit.
Radio
Right.
hit like that. It was everywhere. We're on three. Raven. What's number three?
I went with I Used to Love Her, produced by No ID. It was really hard for me to have that at three and not higher. But it's one of the greatest like odes to hip hop ever, and you can't help but just love that song.
It is one of the best love letters to hip hop of all time. I can probably guess it's going to be talked about by others, not just me. That's what I think of when I think of Common. Diz, what is your number three?
I got one more final track off of the auditorium. There's a track called "There Is a God," or I think it's called "A God." Parentheses there is just a real thought-provoking track, nice hook. Who do we have on here? Jennifer Hudson. Very cool track. One of these Common tracks I feel like I can just play anytime, no matter the situation or the wherever I'm at. And I appreciate that about Common, that I could just bump in. And this is just one of my favorite tracks that I got. This one really just made me think. He had a lot of thought provoking. I mean, he's a thought provoking guy, anyways. This one just kind of hit it home for me and made my number three there. And that's the last track I pull out of the auditorium. That's my it's coming, the way I did. The auditorium just happened to be my favorite Common record right now. So that'll probably change.
And I love
Thanks.
this element. We did this with you in Redman, where you're kind of
That's right.
new to it. It's great that someone who hosts the Gangsta Rap Odyssey podcast can find these songs that you may have overlooked back in the day, and it's a great perspective. So I love that
Yeah.
element.
What I don't have is what Slang has here, and you guys who have followed Common a lot longer, you have like these events and moments in time that you can kind of relate the song to or Common himself to. And the way I've come towards it is like, all right, this is what I'm in a bubble here, but this is what I really like, today, because I don't have a choice.
Yeah,
So this
nostalgia
album
can
was
get in
kind
the way.
of just found my element, you know.
Right.
So thanks.
All right, we are to the top two, and I alluded to it. It hurt not to be number one, but 1994's Resurrection, I Used to Love Her. When it comes to hip hop heads, maybe his most famous song ever, and for good reason. It's one of the best reveals, not only in hip hop history, but maybe musical history. When you hear that last line, what I'm talking about, y'all, is hip hop, and the beat drops, I mean, shivers up my spine the first time I heard it, and it still does it. It just hits you in the soul. It is amazing. And this probably should be number one. I let, you know, it slid. But also a really dope video showing him at different ages, seeing, hip hop culture evolving. He's watching like B-boys breaking, and you have all these classic like Curtis Blow records in the background. What a love letter to a culture. I don't know, I don't know other genres that well, but if there's other, even if there's, a rock album that does a love letter to rock like this, I mean, what a genius song. That reveal gets me every time. So I Used to Love Her was my number two. What about you, Slang?
No question. Number two for me, I'm gonna take it to Like Water for Chocolate again, one of my favorite of Common's. The song Thelonious, I believe it's one of the last few on that album, produced by Jay Dilla, featuring Jay Dilla's group Slum Village. Significance for me, that song, not only the beat, every time it's just Jay Dilla's incredible, but the at that point in time, to me, all of those artists on that song, the production, all of the artists on Slum Village, Common himself, they were at, to me, I believe they were at the peak of their artistry, or one of their peaks at least. And some artists go through various peaks, but I believe at that time that was just a perfect moment in time for all of them to get on that one song, and it's just that simple. It's not really a chorus. It's kind of like a what you do, like a bridge, maybe like a 4-bar between each MC or something like that. It's just the perfect transition from MC to MC to MC, and the beat is just, it's nuts. My number two, Thelonious, off of 2000's Like Water for Chocolate. That's mine.
And Slum Village doesn't get enough love or talked about enough either. They put out some damn good music in that era.
So
Number two, Raven.
All right. So when I said that I think, in my opinion, Resurrection was Common's best album, but not my favorite album actually ended up being 2011's The Dreamer slash The Believer. It is such a different record, but not like Electric Circus different, like way out there different. But I went with Ghetto Dreams with Nas because that's the first time they ever worked together, and it took almost 30 years for that collaboration to happen. And then you hear how well they sound on Ghetto Dreams together, and you're like, why the fuck didn't I ever think? Like, why ain't Common and Nas on the track together? You know what I mean? Like, they sound so fucking good together. And that album surprised me so much because I don't think I even listened to it when it came out. I do not recall that album at all, but it turned out to be my favorite album from him.
And when I think of that album, I think that was the last album I bought on CD of his. And then it came the era where I kind of, for whatever reason, it kind of flew past me. But I do like that record. It does have a different feel. But yeah, I got some honorable mentions off of there. We are still on two. We are on Diz. What's your number two?
My number two is off of a Kanye record, My Way Home. I mean, it's a short song. It's so short. It's like a minute and 43 seconds off Late Registration. But I really love the way Common shines on this track here. I don't know if this would have been the first time I would have heard Common on a Kanye track or whatever. I'm not sure about the timeline of the records and their collaborations. But hearing them on here, it's like, yeah, these guys they're great together. And I think we're finding this common theme where Common just kind of is great with a lot of people. Kanye West is being one of those guys, and it made one of my favorite tracks. Number two for me, On My Way Home, though, short and sweet, but I can't take that. Let the length take away anything from it. I just love it all. So yeah.
All right, we are to number one. My favorite Common song from 2000s, Like Water for Chocolate. No one has brought it up yet. The Sixth Sense. This song speaks to my soul. You got legendary DJ Premier on the beat, and who's the legend of all legends. And while I used to love her is like the perfect love letter to hip hop, the Sixth Sense to me hits me even deeper, like right in my chest. It's just pure hip hop at its finest. The dope rhyming, there's deep lyrics, conscious thinking lyrics, but the hook, the scratching, that Mob Deep sample, mixed with by the singing, it almost brings a tear to my eye. For whatever reason, this song just hits me like a punch to the chest in a good way, if there's a good way to get punched in the chest. But if there is a good way, the Sixth Sense is the good way to get hit in the chest. So very few songs, period, forget Common, period, really hit me like this. There might be 20 of them. And this just always hit me. So the Sixth Sense had to be number one. Slang, what's on the top of your list?
So this one has been discussed previously, and I'm chiming in. And my number one, 94's Resurrection album, the one that's previously been discussed as the great reveal, as Chris said. I used to love her, and I was listen. I was a college student at Bradley University, 94. I DJ for WRBU. We got a promo copy of that album early, and my roommate was actually from the south side of Chicago, around the same neighborhood of Common, Hyde Park area. And I don't know if we listened to this song at the same time, but I just remember, like you said, Chris, when that last line drops and you're like, well, I'm talking about y'all is hip hop. What the fuck? And then you go back and you're like, it's almost like the movie The Sixth Sense, where you're going back and revealing, oh, did he actually was dead? Like this, it was mind blowing. So for me, it was. I actually, before I started this list, I was like, that was number one. I already knew. For me, it was just a landmark moment. I can remember where I was at, probably what I was even wearing. But yeah, that right there is my number one. I mean, Resurrection. I used to love her.
Comparing it to the movie The Sixth Sense is perfect. Because after you listen to it once, you never listen to it the same again.
The same way.
It's a totally different song now that you know the reveal. And it was hard not to put that at number one. It's so iconic. What a great song. Raven, what is your number one?
Y'all got me feeling bad. I put it at 3 now. That
Hell's wrong
I
with
actually I fell in love with Dreamer and the Believer, so I stayed on that for my number one as well. Sweet, the song Sweet. It is such a hard beat from No ID. It set everybody on fire thinking that it was a Drake diss, and many people still think it's a Drake diss. Common came out and was like, nah, it's just coincidental or whatever. But nah, it was a Drake diss. But it's such a hard beat, and Common just goes hard in that shit.
you. Diz, what
Fuck
is
yeah.
your number one?
My number one song that I have comment on is not surprisingly not on his record, but it's the Jesus Piece song off of the Game's record with Kanye West and the Game. I put it at number one because that is the song that caught my attention with Common. I was like, who is this guy at the end here? It's Common. I'm like, oh shit. I've been meaning to listen to some Common. And here he is, right here in this fucking track I love. He kills the track, man. He's the best guy on the track. And he kind of renewed my interest in checking Common out. And like I said, man, you kind of forced my hand, so I'm glad. But I got to put it at number one. My favorite Common song is just one that he's featured on, Jesus Piece. It's a record that's pretty underrated as well. It doesn't really get that much. I mean, it's old now, but it's a gangster rap record, Jesus Piece, by the Game.
Those first couple of Game albums I really liked. Those are really good records.
Yeah.
To me, we got through the list. Honorable mentions. If you're joining me for the first time, if nobody brought up a song I thought should get some love, I just quick shout it out. From Can I Borrow a Dollar, Blows to the Temple. From Resurrection, Watermelon, I thought might make someone's list. Nothing to Do, some shit I wrote. From One Day It All Makes Sense, Real Brother quotes. Like Water for Chocolate, Payback's a Grandmother, another great, storytelling track. From B, Go and They Say. From Finding Forever, The People, Southside, Dreamer Believer, The Believer. And I really want to shout out from Let Love, the album Let Love, which was largely forgettable to me. There's a song called The Fifth Story where the storytelling is so amazing. I mean, it was one of those where you feel like you're there watching it. So yeah, are we missing anything in honorable mentions?
I just want to add real quick, one of my favorites, even off of Like Water for Chocolate, honorable mention. I found so hard to keep it off of there, off of this top 10 list. A film called Pimp featuring MC Light.
Yes.
Fucking hilarious ass
The
story.
beginning. Yep.
And the fact that it's common, like at the time
Right.
he's pitched this conscious rapper, and he's talking about the pimp game
Right.
and how she's used to seeing pimps and furs and gators. I had a kufi on, whatever you say. And then MC Light is just hilarious on it, the way they go back and forth. It's still hip hop MCing, but that one took me left field. I honestly didn't like the song when it first came out too much, but after all of these years, like that's one of my favorites on that album. Jay Dilla did the production on it. That's an honorable mention for me. The intro to the B album, that was one as well. Several more I could probably go into. I don't want to, keep taking up your time. But actually, the A Beautiful Revolution album, A Ride in My Mind. I thought Lenny Kravitz was on the chorus with that guitar riff. That song is hard. Goodness, there's so many. There's so many. I could go into tons of them.
Yeah, my number 11 would be a song. I believe it's called The Question. Most Def is in it. And it's just another really dope song.
Well, Common, Sense/Common is finished in the books. Glad y'all can make it. It was great having you on, Slang. We'll have to get you on again one day.
Sure.
Always great to get new
My
faces
pleasure.
on the round table. Have a good night. I'll let y'all go. And till next time, see ya.
Still a B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy.